Helen nodded happily. She thought it was fun to wait up in the tree. But suddenly a change came over the day. The air grew cooler. All the heat seemed to be fading away. Helen frowned. The sun must be hiding behind a cloud, she thought. And what was that strange smell coming up from the ground? Helen took a deep sniff. Then she knew. It was the smell that always came right before a really big storm. The wind began to blow. Helen felt a thudding all around. This was thunder. But to Helen it seemed as if a giant were dropping something heavy nearby. And he was coming closer all the time. Teacher, 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 Helen's fingers fluttered frantically. But the wind only blew harder, and nobody came. A branch broke over Helen's head. Twigs sputtered down around her. Jump, Helen thought, but what if she did? Would she go flying off into space? Would she crash to the ground? Helen decided to hang on, but her fingers were slipping. She could not hold on much longer. Then Helen felt the most wonderful thing in the world, Teacher's arms lifting her down from the tree. One day, Teacher put an egg into Helen's hand. Hold it carefully, she spelled. Helen was puzzled. She already knew what eggs were. She had 2 every morning for breakfast. What was so different about this one? Wait and see, Teacher spelled. The first thing Helen noticed was that the egg was very warm. Then it began to do very strange things. It began to quiver, to shake in her hand. Now she could feel something chipping against the inside of the eggshell. Something was alive in there, and it was trying to get out. Helen's mouth opened into a silent O of wonder as the eggshell began to crack. A few minutes later, a baby chick was born in her hand. But what about things Helen could not hold in her hand? What about things that were too big or far away or that happened long ago? How could she learn about them? Helen had to trust other people to tell her about the colors she would never see and the sounds she would never hear. And what about ideas, thoughts with no shapes at all? Helen remembered all her life the first time she understood an idea. One day, Teacher asked her a very hard question. Helen tried to think of the answer. She tried as hard as she could. Teacher leaned forward. She tapped Helen's forehead. T-H-I-N-K, she spelled at the same time. And suddenly Helen knew that's what was happening inside her head. She was thinking. Helen learned so many hard things that first summer, but she didn't know they were hard. To 7-year-old Helen Keller, it was simply a magic time, a time when the world came to life in her hand.